Good evening. We'll call this meeting of Fairfield County Council to order. Monday, September 10, 2018, 6 p.m. First item is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Seconded.
It's been moved and properly seconded that council now approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? By a vote of 7-0, the agenda is approved as presented. Invocation, Councilmember Pauley, please.
Let us pray. Lord, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this council meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion and make decisions that is in the best interest for Fairfield County. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilmember Pauley. Next is the approval of minutes from our regular meeting of August 27, 2018. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and properly seconded that council approve the regular minutes from August 27, regular meeting minutes from August 27, 2018. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? By a vote of 7-0, those minutes are approved. No public presentations tonight. First public comment session. Mrs. Davis.
We have one to speak tonight, Mr. Randy Bright, speaking on walking for safety and prosperity.
Randy Bright, District 1, Ridgeway. This is in reference to the Winsboro pedestrian plan. I read some of it on Facebook, I guess, a month or two ago, and I just have a few questions that hopefully the presenter was going to answer to begin with, but I want to just impress upon those questions at this time. My first question is going back to this plan. It looks like it's not that different from the 2007 Winsboro sidewalk plan. I don't know if anybody's referenced that lately or remember it. And a couple of things I thought that were pretty good within that plan included development and growth as a goal, development and growth of business and specialty shops in the downtown area. Are these goals in line with the new Winsboro pedestrian plan? Lead the development of certain significant properties. And the goal back in 2007 listed those properties. Some of them are still here, some of them are not, like a Ford dealership. Attract empty nesters and young adults to live and work in Winsboro. That's really a good goal, quite frankly. And to build a walkable and bicycle-friendly community. And that goes a lot with the aforementioned goal of attracting empty nesters and others. And then there's been other studies and comprehensive plans that list pedestrian projects that, as far as beautification and as far as safety is concerned. And I believe safety was one of the goals listed in the current Winsboro sidewalk plan. And then most importantly, or certainly right at the top of the list, what is the cost? And how much will the cost be to the county? And how much will be the cost to other government agencies, grants, third parties, or whatever? So overall, if whoever is the presenter for this plan could answer those aforementioned questions, I would like to see that. Thank you.
That concludes segment one.
Thank you. We're now down to public hearings. We have two for tonight, and we'll start the first one now at 6:04 p.m. This is an ordinance authorizing, or the public hearing on an ordinance authorizing the development of a new county administration building to better serve the citizens of Fairfield County, the execution and delivery of a lease agreement and associated contracts necessary to effect the intent of this ordinance and other related matters. Mrs. Davis?
We have 10 who wish to speak tonight. First, Mr. Bill McDonald.
Appreciate you letting me speak on behalf of a monument, city monument that I was born about a half of about 5-minute walk from. I'm referring to Mount Zion Institute. I'm a retired journalist. I have worked 40 years for 3 Deep South newspapers, one of which was the Charleston News and Courier. The other was the Tallahassee Democrat when I was doing graduate work in English at Tallahassee. And the last was the state newspaper where I worked 32 years. And if I've learned one thing about, I've interviewed governors, congressmen, all stripes of politicians, and if there's one thing I have learned is that a city or town like ours should protect its heritage. And I welcome the readaptive use of Mount Zion Institute, of which I'm a graduate, greatly. I think that it will, it has sadly become a tragic sight. Vandals, of course, early on took rocks and crashed the windows. It was not a pretty sight at all. The fact that maybe $11 million will be poured into the school, I think, speaks greatly about the kind of building it will be. It's a welcome thing, and I'm having to sort of, I cannot understand at all why a certain group of people oppose the building, the reinventions of Mount Zion Institute, when I was there living just a few yards from the school. It was not envisioned by the neighboring homeowners as an intrusion. Even with the movement in and out of buses and buses and football games at night and all of that, not a homeowner has ever complained about the fact that the school was near their property. And I think that all buildings, historic and otherwise, signify the health and strength of a community, and to leave a special one as ours
Thank you. We appreciate your comments.
would be a travesty.
Next, Mr. Donnie Laird.
I'm Donnie Laird, District 7. What I want to talk about tonight are things that I feel like I've learned by attending all the council meetings. And this is why I think that we need to look at Mount Zion, not just because it's old. At the last meeting, we had a rally of the folks that live around Mount Zion that were very concerned, and I don't blame you for that. You need to know what's going on. You need to have transparency, and I think that's what the council intends to do. First, let me say what I've learned is the county cannot borrow any more money because they borrowed a $24 million bond, as I understand it. And they can't borrow any more money, and this is from a previous administration, I've been told. I think the story started back many years ago when there were talk about doing the courthouse that was designed by Robert Mills. And the courthouse needs repairs, and at that time it was like 11 or 12 million. But keep in mind, this was back then when the nuclear plant was going to succeed. It was quoted about 11 to 12 million, and then it was suggested that we might look at Mount Zion because it's less expensive. And I was on Friends of Mount Zion, and we estimated it was $5 million. So I asked council if they would just look at that, and which they did. The present administrative building that I'm talking at right now needs $3 to $5 million, which I've been told. We can't borrow the money, as we know that. So Mount Zion, why is it attractive? I learned that First Demand, a potential developer, has reported a cost of $11.5 million to restore Mount Zion, which includes saving the auditorium, the gym, and the lunchroom. First Demand will get a $5 million tax credits and the balance of $4.5 million in a construction loan and a $1.1 million in equity for money it would raise. That's what I felt I learned. the county would lease the building back interest-free from First Demand with money already budgeted at payments of $525,000 a year, no interest. Keep in mind, to tear down Mount Zion would cost, I estimate, $200,000, and then you want a park, it's going to probably cost another $75,000 to $100,000. So that's a lot of money you have to think about when you're making the decisions. What I'm asking you to do, if you don't want to get up here and talk before council and the people, then send an email, send a letter, I'll give them a call, because you look on the website, all the information is there. Another thing that council is doing is they're having a community forum Thursday, September the 25th to 8, and that's going to be at Midlands Technical College. So I'm asking you to look at this and vote. I know how I would vote from what I've learned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Miss Claudia Cathcart.
My name is Claudia Carter Cathcart, and I was born in Winsboro and have lived here all my life, except the years I was in college. I've been seen quite a few county councils and county managers come and go, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank our present council and county manager for their diligence in the administration building project. They've considered all the options and have the best interest of Fairfield County at heart, and I am certain that they'll come up with the best solution to this project. Thank you, council, and Mr. Taylor, for all your hard work.
Thank you. Next, Miss Yvette Howard.
Good evening, Council. Economic development must be the #1 priority in Fairfield County. Our situation, a high unemployment rate, healthcare transition, tariffs, and the likes, affects the cost of foreign-made goods and products, does not bode well for new tax dollars in Fairfield County. As a matter of fact, additional dollars may be necessary to keep some of the companies we currently have. Let's face reality. Let's put economic development first. Let's not wade into a national debate regarding monuments. Let's employ visible options for spending $552,000 per year of taxpayers' money. With $552,000 over the next 10 years surpass the $3.5 million to renovate the current administrative building. You bet it does. It costs 3 times more. We can't afford to borrow money. It's no excuse to overspending and to levy more money on taxpayers holding the bag. The numbers don't add up. First and the main development did not include environmental impact costs to remove asbestos and possible mold. To own Mount Zion after renting the facility with an option to purchase at the end of 10 years did not list any operating expenses. The building cost of $9 million is listed for the new administrative building, plus operating costs equals $14,168,046. Would cost to rent be more if operating costs were included? Electricity, gas, water, sewer, furnishing, insurance, how much more? When we first heard about the new Fairfield County administrative building concept for Mount Zion, we were talking about 15,000 square feet of space. That space has now grown to over 27,000 square feet of space. Initial rent has gone from $325,000 per month to $525,000 per month. Just one more option, one more question to ponder. Follow the money. Mount Zion property is not easily accessible. The Confederate monument will embroil our community in the national debate stirred by social media that pits advocating and protesting for and those advocating and protesting against Confederate monuments.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Next, Mr. Bill Haslett.
Good evening, Council. Appreciate you allowing me a few minutes to speak again. I was up here a couple of weeks ago. I'm in favor of Mount Zion. I was born and raised here in Winsboro. Winsboro was a thriving city back when I grew up here in the 60s, 50s, and 60s. I'm not telling my age, but it is my birthday today, so I do have a special time. But Winsboro has been a special place for me, and it's very difficult to see a town dry up like Winsboro has done. We have lost quality of life in this town. We've lost industry, quality of life. You can bring an industry in here and bring 1,000 jobs in here. But guess what? The people don't want to live in Winsboro because it looks like the devil. And I'm disappointed in Winsboro. I'm disappointed in the town of Winsboro. I'm disappointed in the council. We've got to clean up our act, folks. If you drove into Winsboro, or you drove into Newberry, or you drove into Camden, I believe there wouldn't be any chance that you would come to Winsboro to want to live because it looks so bad. Folks, we got a chance with Mount Zion here to make a historic move to bring history back. We can put an $11 million improvement in the middle of our historic area with walking trails, museum. We're going to have an exhibit in there for Fairfield High School, for Winsboro High School. I've already talked with the administrator. This is going to be a piece of history we have there. We got an auditorium. You want to see a good play, a Broadway play? We've got a local people in this town that can put on a production. People want quality of life, folks. They don't want just jobs. They want quality of life. We've got to improve quality of life in this county if we're going to ever grow this county. It's not going to grow by just jobs. Mack Truck was a perfect example. We brought hundreds of jobs here. But guess what? Very few of them lived in Winsboro. Why don't they want to live here? Because it looks like the devil. Drive down Main Street and see what it looks like. Drive over to Mount Zion. It's falling in. Drive all over the county. We need to improve quality of life and zoning enforcement. I'm disappointed with two of the council members that have sat on the fence, and I think that's nothing but a political move to try to get votes for the next election. Do what's best for the county, move this county forward, and let's get something we're all proud of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Miss Lisa Brandenburg.
Good evening, Lisa Brandenburg, District 7. I would like to submit these as my questions for the 20th for the forum also. Who currently has the deed for the Mount Zion property? Because I'm getting different feedback on that. So I would hope that by the forum all these questions could be answered. Which properties are included in this transaction? Are stipulations included to address the Confederate monument? It was said that staff would look into that, and that could be a stipulation. But spending this much money and the concern in the community, we need in black and white what the facts and the details are, so we truly have transparency. And share the fine print of the contract with the taxpayers during this time. I've heard, 5 people get up here and speak, and it's been 5 sets of numbers come out. So nobody's consistent. None of us know, really. Where are all the tax credits, the grants, the funding sources? What will that total before moving forward? Details specified for any overages that may be encountered. Is it in writing that that's going back to the developer, or will it fall in the laps of the taxpayers? Please explain the lease agreement, the deed, and the transfer back of the buildings to the county once everything, if it ever materializes. And who will get the deed should this project not even occur? And we want to know the total projected profit for the developer. And then I beg to raise this question. How much would it cost to fix this current administration building? It has been said that it was going to be looked into by staff. It was said that staff would give us this information. That information has not been shared that I've heard. All right, can the developer get the same tax credits and grants to fix this building that is in much better condition than Mount Zion? Both are relatively the same age, and this building also has significant historical value. As far as the courthouse, I know this is how all the topics came to be. We down to 5.5 million left. That money needs to be reserved, fix the courthouse. We don't have to do anything right now because you can take the magistrate's building. There's a thing called cubicles and sharing space. It would only be a year and get us some jobs and economic development in here. Thank you.
Next, Dr. Marie Roseborough.
Good evening. I spoke last time and expressed my concern and the need to tear down the building. After hearing comments tonight, I want to address one issue. The real problem is not the building, restoring the building, from my perspective, restoring the building. I have confidence that the county could do a good job with restoring the building. The problems lie in putting parking spaces on the property. People have never been allowed to park on that property. I taught at Mount Zion for 4 years. We parked in the space where the monuments are and the walking trail. I drove a school bus in high school. I drove around the street, around, delivered on the side of the building, and drove back around. There has not been a problem with traffic because no one's parked on the property. That's a big issue. Provided we have the money, I would not have a problem with restoration of the building, but there seems to be some confusion. We're making changes in the building and the grounds when you add all those parking spaces and dumpsters in the rear building, in the rear of the building. The potential of having a gym. If you have a gym, how can you refuse to allow people to play basketball? I don't think so. We don't want a gym on that property. But the real problem is putting all those parking spaces behind the building. Back to what I said last time, if you make your decision, consider how the decision will affect the people most closely affected by the project. That's the people that live there that are close to that project. Please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Pam Smith.
Hello. I grew up here. I went to Mount Zion School, and I would not really have a problem with renovating the building. I have a problem with all the activity that would be there if you put the sheriff's office or whatever office there, the government offices. It's a neighborhood. It needs to be a neighborhood. In fact, we've even spoken to a family attorney to see what we would need to do to protect all the financial dollars. We have $600,000 invested in 3 properties that would be affected by Mount Zion School. And we, inverse condemnation would apply in this case because it would affect the value of our property. And I'm not saying that, I'm not blowing smoke or just standing here threatening, I'm just saying that would be our action, and I know your action. I do, and we have already spoken to the attorneys, and we would represent anybody in our community that wanted us to, at our cost. I do have a problem with the building being there, with dumpsters out there that would be smelly, with the rodents going in and out of the dumpsters. I have a problem with the lighting that would fall over into neighborhood yards. It would be intrusive to neighbors there. I have problems, and the dumpsters, I mean, these dumpsters out here smell. I've been out there before and smelled them. Not intentionally, it just happened. So that's an issue. I don't want our property taxes to be raised. If you're going to put that wonderful building there, you're going to spend money out of pocket to keep it up, to pay extra for utilities, tax, and all the things that surround that. And I'm totally against all of that. And we know that. I mean, people do not want property taxes raised. I don't think that you're going to get the funding you need because it's not likely to be considered a historical building. So many changes have happened there. It's probably not going to happen. I've even talked to the people involved in making those decisions. So I know that for a fact. But I really hope that y'all, think long and hard, and I appreciate the fact that at the last meeting I came to, that a couple of you questioned, well, what are the other alternatives? Y'all have money that can be used to fix this building and to be fixing other buildings. We don't need children and grandchildren of people in here to be paying this money back 100 years from now, because already we've got $50 million that's going to have to be paid back. Let's don't put dollars, because regardless, you're going to have to rent the building back that you give to somebody else to develop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Miss Jana Childers.
Jana Childers, District 7. Let me first state that I appreciate those of you on council who have taken the time to speak with me and to show me some of these plans for the Mount Zion building. But I still oppose the renovations, which as of today are still not on the National Register of Historic Places. That's a prerequisite for obtaining the needed tax credits, isn't it? I know the council has stated that the developer will be responsible for a majority of the costs of the development, but won't the county be responsible to pay a lease of approximately $500,000 a year for approximately 10 years? Where's council going to get the $5 million? Wouldn't it be cheaper to fix the current admin building? And I'd still like to see some numbers on that. I've asked for them. And keep in mind that those should be what needs to be fixed, not upgrades or cosmetic. And don't forget that a majority of the tax-paying property owners in this community are still against this proposal. The noise and debris from construction, traffic, and 24/7 operations will destroy the value of their homes and lives. With this in mind, I'd like to read this entry from Legal Dictionary. The term inverse condemnation refers to the taking or damaging of a person's real property by a government entity without payment of just compensation. This issue is related to the government's responsibility under the Fifth Amendment. In such cases, the property owner is faced with the prospect of suing the government in order to obtain compensation. There have been several cases in South Carolina which the government had to compensate the property owner. Shouldn't council be concerned about this possibility? It's something to think about. We're already in debt. We can't afford another lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Randy Bright.
Randy Bright, District 1, Ridgeway. Frankly, I don't know enough to say if I'm for it or not against it. It's a double entendre there. And I don't know anybody that does. And I applaud the council members who are candid in saying they don't know enough yet. I think the 10 speakers that have come before you tonight have indicated there's still a lot of confusion. There's still a lot of unknown factors. And for myself, I'm already up to 23 questions that I've submitted, and I've probably got another dozen or so more at home. I'm not going to go over those tonight. Some of those, sorry about that, we don't have hours. But the point is, what you're doing on Thursday is paramount to this project. The communication, listening to us citizens, evaluating our questions, responding to them accordingly will go a long way to take care of the fence sitters one way or another, like myself. And many people I know are in my same boat. I don't know enough of this. Now, no offense, but I blame the county for that, because this has been going on for a year. We heard that It was moving in this direction a year ago. And we've moved along pretty fast, and I've liked a lot of things what has been done, but I really like what you guys have done as far as opening up the forum next week. Make it a quality forum. Answer the questions that have been submitted. If you don't know the answers, let us know, and let us know when you'll get back to us via the news media. There's just, and again, I applaud those two council members who said, I just don't have enough information. Because I've gone to 99% of the council meetings, and I read everything that comes out, both on Facebook, online, and the literature that comes out of here. And I don't have enough facts to make a decision, quite frankly. Maybe you guys know something that we don't, but if you do, communicate it. Next Thursday would be an opportune time to do it so that you can, one way or another, I can say, well, the facts tell me it should be yes, the facts tell me it should be no. That's up to you guys. And again, thanks for doing this forum next Thursday. It's a feather in your cap, and it's a much improvement over the old days of your predecessors. I remember FFC coming along and that we still talk about, and that was just, could not have been a more horrible experience in presentation and more horrible results. And I know you guys are going to do better because I'm very confident it'll be an informative, get all the facts out meeting this coming Thursday. And I urge everyone out there, TV land out here,
Thank you.
Submit your questions. Thank you.
That concludes the public hearing.
All right. We'll take a motion at this time, 6:31 PM, to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded to close the public hearing, 6:31 PM. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? By a vote of 7-0, that public hearing is closed. We have another public hearing tonight. 6:31, we'll open this public hearing. An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease agreement between Fairfield County and Fairfield County Hospital Board, a.k.a. Fairfield Memorial Hospital, and other related matters. Mrs. Davis, anyone signed to speak?
One speaker, Mr. Randy Bright.
Never let a good speaking opportunity go to waste. This is a Randy Bright, Ridgeway, District 1. I'm not sure everyone realizes what the Fairfield administration, Memorial Hospital administration has done, what this group has done, and what Providence has done with the overall hospital transition package. But to put it in a nutshell, and if you want to challenge my figures, you can, but I don't have time to explain them right now. Counting salaries, benefits, and other economic considerations, velocity factors, your council, your Fairfield Administration Hospital, and Providence Hospital, that's going to save us about $7 million a year in economic activity. $7 million a year. It's going to, the cost is going to, is factored into this. The cost differential is going to be about $600,000 less in total costs. All of that, and we get a brand new state-of-the-art building that's attached to one of the top-rated hospitals in the state that has room to grow as far as medical services. It's also kept intact, this whole process, all the same services that the current hospital is providing. One caveat, but that's probably going to come through too. And it also ensures that many of the Fairfield Memorial Hospital employees continue employment, either in this county or perhaps at Providence. So this has been a win-win and probably one of the best accomplishments that any council, administration, and all the other groups combined has sold. It's a win, $7 million a year economically. It's a win healthcare-wise, keeping primary care, by keeping other facilities open, and getting us a brand-new state-of-the-art emergency center that we can all be proud of and that we can all be proud of attending. And the other factor is, not included in those estimates, is the draw that Fairfield County will be. Who would, we talked a lot about who wants to come to Fairfield County, and that's in another speech of mine, but who would want to come to Fairfield County if we had not kept these, you guys had not kept these medical facilities intact and in fact improved upon them. It's a big plus, it's a big win, and gets a springboard for even bigger things. So thank you, great job.
No one else signed to speak.
Thank you. We'll take a motion at 6:35 PM to close this public hearing. It's been moved and properly seconded. The council now closes public hearing 6:35 PM. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Those opposed? By a vote of 7-0, that public hearing is closed. We're now down to ordinances, resolutions, and orders. We have one for tonight. This is second reading on ordinance number 709. This is an ordinance authorizing Fairfield County to accept the conveyance of 2.72 acres, more or less, situated on Old Windmill Road near Ridgeway, South Carolina, in the county of Fairfield, to be used for public safety or other uses deemed fit by Fairfield County Council and other related matters. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. The council will provide second reading to ordinance number 709. Any discussion? Mr. Pauly.
Who is giving Fairfield County donating this land to the county?
Mr. Taylor.
It's Lake Watery Presbyterian Church, if I'm not mistaken. Is that the name, the full name of it? Lake Watery Presbyterian.
Any other questions, Mr. Pauly?
No, that's it.
I have just one question as well, or at least starting with one question. I know we're at second reading on the ordinance. I've seen the ordinance in full. Do we have a draft contract with the Presbyterian Church yet on this as well?
Yes, we do have a draft contract, and I would add, and the church had asked that we at least comment on this at council, that there is a revisionary clause. This is for the purpose of building a fire station that we had budgeted, but if we do not build a fire station or use it for public use, it would revert back to the church.
That's within the contract?
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
Okay. Is there a time period on that?
We're looking at, I think, 24 months, of course, not counting construction. If we take no action within 24 months, they could request it back.
Mr. Morgan, you have anything to add?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Mr. Taylor, I incorrectly told you it was 24 months earlier. It's actually, there is a provision in there that provides for if construction is not initiated within 3 years, then the property would revert to the church. And if the property is not continuously used by Fairfield County for public purposes and public safety purposes, then it would revert back to the church. So there's it's a dual. If construction is not started, because it will take time for the construction process to get going, but at any point in time, if the county fails to use the property continuously for 1 year, then it would revert back to the church at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Robinson.
And it's not,
Mr. Robinson's recognized, had his hand up.
Mr. Chair, I believe at the last reading, there was some discussion in reference to the ISO rating. Would it affect the Desmond Creek?
We're working through that. It will not have a negative effect on anyone's ISO rating. It would only improve those that are closer to the station. We have looked at that from a staffing perspective. We've got to make sure that we handle that part of it correctly, but we will make sure that no one is negatively affected.
now this is not just for a fire station. This is going to have 4 bays in it. It'll have a tanker bay, a fire truck bay. It'll have a bay in there for the sheriff's department and EMS. And it'll also have about 1,000 square feet for the community uses for their own use.
Okay. Have we got a cost estimate on that?
No, we do not have a full cost estimate on it yet.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that the contract has the language in it to send the property back if for whatever reason we can't do it. I think that provides protection on both sides, similar to the new administration building project as well. Thank you. No more questions. Anyone else? All right, at this time, we'll vote. We've got, again, a motion and a second. Those in favor? Those opposed? By a vote of 7-0, ordinance 709 is given second reading. We're now down to board and commission minutes. We have 3 for tonight. We'll do these together. Library Commission, Disabilities and Special Needs Board, and Hospital Board. These were delivered to you in your packet. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that these board and commission minutes be approved as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? By a vote of 7-0, those minutes are approved. Board and commission appointments. Library Board, Ms. Rebecca Dodds from District 3. Do we have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that Ms. Rebecca Dodds from District 3 be appointed to the Library Board. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? By a vote of 7 to 0, that appointment is made. No old business, no new business. County Administrator's Report. Mr. Taylor.
First item we have up is Mr. Ian Sanson. Do we have Mr. Ian Sanson here? Oh, sorry, if you would join us at the podium. He is here tonight to give a presentation on a project we've been working with through DHEC. They have awarded us a grant to do what's called walkable Windsboro. They ask us, again, what could they do to help us improve walkability of one of our communities? And we did pick Windsboro to concentrate on, and we gave them some suggestions, and they have used that grant money to hire Alta, a firm that specializes in putting these kind of walkability plans together. And he's here tonight to give you a presentation on that.
Thank you.
Yes, hello. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Fairfield County Council. As Mr. Taylor said, my name is Ian Sanson. I'm with Alta Planning and Design. I'm based in Atlanta. And yes, we have been working with Councilmember Cornelius Robinson and various stakeholders from the city of Winnsboro and the community to implement the pedestrian plan between about January and May of this year. And we have the final draft of the copy ready in hard copy form right now that I think is being passed around. And I'm just going to go through about a handful of slides here and summarize the plan as quickly as possible. Should only take about 5 minutes. Next. The focus of this plan and the overall project vision is to create a vision where Winnsboro will be a place where a connected network of comfortable pedestrian facilities are provided to people of all abilities, where pedestrian-friendly design is prioritized in all future roadway projects, where citizens and businesses collaborate to improve walkability, and where all residents can easily access healthy food and recreational areas on foot. So that is the statement project vision within the plan. Next. There are a few specific project goals that we have identified in working with the project stakeholder advisory group, and that is to, number 1, improve sidewalk connectivity, number 2, improve pedestrian safety, particularly crossing conditions on major roads in the town of Winnsboro. Number 3, increase pedestrian activity downtown, recognizing the indirect benefits of a lively sidewalk and activated storefronts. And so while economic development is not a specific goal, just to answer your question from earlier, Randy, it is definitely one of the side goals of this project and one of the hopefully intended consequences. Next. And then number 4, identify local champions and college students to work with the stakeholder committee on implementation. So emphasizing people that have time and really want to be passionate about getting involved in this project to take it to the next level. And then number 5, increase the percentage of commute trips that are made by walking. So we're not just looking for improving recreational trips by walking, but also getting people more thinking about walking as a form of transportation and ways that we can do that. And then finally, create synergy through low-cost, easy-to-implement projects that may involve students and local events that you already have to create fast and fun improvements, perhaps downtown, to enliven the streetscapes. Next. As part of this plan, one of the focus areas was to identify where sidewalks could be improved in the town of Winnsboro. And so we looked at where all sidewalks currently exist in the town. And that map you can see on the left, it's a little hard to read, but the red areas, this will be more clear when you actually see the hard copy version or the online version. The red are where Winnsboro currently completely lacks sidewalks. Those are streets. The yellow is where there are sidewalks on one side of the street only. And the green lines are where there are sidewalks on both sides of the street. So working backwards from there, obviously we've developed recommendations for improving some of those streets with more sidewalks and focusing on connections between schools, parks, and areas where people can access healthy foods. Next. So we have just a few specific project ideas that we've highlighted. Now, these are in no way concrete projects that have funding applied. They're just ideas at this point. Next. So this will hopefully show you the vision. So this is for traffic calming at the intersection of Chalmers and Park Streets. Very basic improvements, adding sidewalks, adding some share the lane markings to emphasize that biking is allowed on the street, and maybe some basic signage and landscaping. Next. So again, as part of this plan, we haven't just looked at sidewalks, we're also looking at traffic calming treatments for different areas throughout town. This is a poster that we used at one of the public input sessions that just shows various ideas for various areas of town that we think would be appropriate. So speed tables along, I think that was College Avenue at the top there, and various treatments kind of spread out equitably around the town. Next. This is another vision for a roundabout at Washington and Garden Streets in front of the library. Next. So this was a little bit controversial, but just kind of thinking about ways to slow traffic. This doesn't have to be implemented. There are other ways of doing this, but this is one idea that we came up with. Next. And then we also developed a series of program ideas to complement the actual projects. So these would not require any funding. Obviously, these are things that the stakeholder group can take charge of, and the volunteers can work on to improve walkability through park programs, safety programs, some kind of volunteer pop-up plaza, maybe on an empty lot downtown, farmers market activities and incentives and so forth. Next. And so another major part of this plan was to identify funding strategies. That's something that we've gotten a lot of feedback on through the first 14 plans that we've done through this DHEC funding. So I probably should have emphasized at the beginning, so this is one of 16, Winsboro is one of 16 communities around the state to receive funding through DHEC for improving walkability. And funding has come up over and over. Obviously, towns want to know how they can actually fund these projects. And so we've developed a long list, about 10 pages of various funding ideas, grants, and so forth, federal, local, private, that you can go after if you want to implement these projects. Next. And then, of course, we want this to be a sustainable project. So we hope it doesn't end after you adopt this plan. We want to keep things going, and DHEC is going to be helping with that. So they're going to be keeping the stakeholder meetings going, getting more residents involved, and people who are interested and passionate about this can continue to have a say in what happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, council members? Any comments?
Mr. Swanson, I'd just like to thank you for putting in a lot of work, because it was a lot of work and that we put into it, us and the steering committee, so thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Ms. Goins.
I also want to commend Councilman Robinson for spearheading this, for having the vision, for having an open mind about the future of the county and the benefits of our citizens. I want to thank you so much for coming on board. I'm grateful for people that will invest in us. And I just thank you so much. I'm excited about it. Whatever I can do, whenever, I will be on board, supporting 100%. Thank you so much. And again, Councilman Robinson, hats off to you. Thank you.
Mr. Douglas.
This is in the town of Winsboro city limits, right?
I think it's...
Wouldn't the presentation be good to be made to the town of Winsboro?
Yes, I think it would, and we have tried to involve them throughout this whole process, but it goes in and out of the town's boundaries. It's a mix of both the town and the county.
And then again, you're not sure of what's going to be done. We're going to vote on something and accept it and not know what things are going to be used or what's going to be done with the plan.
Well, I don't think there's any intention that we vote on anything tonight. It's just a presentation of the plan that was put together based on the state funding of a grant.
I'll say that our hope is that you adopt the plan because the idea is that the projects and programs that are identified within the plan can then be funded later. And you can go after funding through all the different funding ideas. This really is to help get funding. And I know the 2007 plan was mentioned recently, but a plan that's more than 10 years old is not going to hold much water when going after grant funds. So.
Yeah, and so the point is that it helps to have a plan in place that you've recently adopted when you go out for grants and try to get those monies and things of that nature. But I think the point you make, Mr. Douglas, is well made, that either way it would need to incorporate the town of Winsboro to a great degree. So I think it would be a good thing to have a presentation made to them as well and discuss it with them as well before adoption. Thank you. Thank you again.
Next, we have a request of action that has been before the Administration and Finance Committee, and approval has been recommended by them. And what we're looking to do, Ms. Pickett, if you would like to join us at the microphone also, we're looking to revise our procurement policy to give a local preference. Currently, we just go with low bid. And what we're recommending, and this is a common practice that other counties surrounding us and throughout the state use, is if you have someone who is within reason, up to 4%, I think is what we're proposing in the change, and they're local, then we can give them a preference. It doesn't necessarily have to be low bid. We can look at someone who is paying taxes here, who may be buying a business license in the town, and give them a slight preference if they're within reason in the bidding process. There are some limitations. I'll let Ms. Pickett go into that. It can't be beyond a certain amount, and there's certain grant requirements we have to exempt.
Good evening, Council. Grant requirements, if it's federally funded or state funded, it prohibits local preference, so we cannot incorporate local preference for a vendor. But if the vendor is bidding against another vendor, maybe say if they're from Columbia and we have someone here and they're within that 4%, yes, we can award that bid based upon that to our local vendor here. Including that local preference policy, but not just saying we just give it to our local vendor, but it has to be within that policy guideline.
Any questions, comments?
I understood before that if it was local, that we could use local people to do the work, but if it's state or federal jobs, that we would have to go through having the bids.
We still have to go through bidding process. Anything over $2,500 require 3 quotes. So there is a bidding process that we still have to follow. There's guidelines for it. And if it comes over $2,500 and there's another bidder that is bidding on it, and they say, like I say, if they're from Columbia, yes, we can. If our local vendor here in Fairfield County is within that 4%, yes, we can award to them. If not, then we'll award it to the Columbia resident.
Thank you. Ms. Pickett, what was the maximum? I just don't have it in front of me. We discussed 4% up to a dollar amount maximum.
$800,000.
How much?
$800,000, and that's basically if for construction type projects for our CTC road paving projects.
Sheila, if I'm not mistaken, I thought it was $50,000 unless it was.
Okay, you were
That's
referring to something
thinking,
else.
but
Okay.
Yeah, the cap. So it was
If it's a cap,
4% or under, or
let me read it to you.
okay.
It's a 4% preference of the amount of their quotation or bid up to a maximum total of $50,000. The preference will not apply to purchases totaling less than $50. Preferences do not apply to either prime or subcontractors as relate to construction contracts, nor any item that may be purchased on state contracts. And that's saying if it's on state contract, we don't have to use our local vendor. We're going to go with state contract because state contract has been vetted. They have done the bidding process for us. So.
All right. Anything else? I'll just say I appreciate the work on this. I think this is a big plus to local vendors and suppliers and folks who do work here, pay taxes, live and work here locally. It's something I wanted to get done ever since I first got on council. So if I leave before we get anything else done, I can say I got this, and alcohol sales every day of the week. Those were 2 big priorities. So glad we got that done. Appreciate all the work you put into it. Thank you.
Sheila, Ms. Pickett, if you'll stay in place. The next item is also about procurement, or in this case, actually getting rid of some of the old equipment, surplus things that we have. The Hahn building, which as many of you know, we have access to and we use as a warehouse. And when things are no longer used, a lot of stuff ends up in the Hahn building. Typically, we send stuff to the state surplus for them to auction off. There's lots of items that they just won't accept. They're just not worth hauling up there, so they tend to pile up. And what we're asking council to do is let us essentially do a local sale to get rid of some of that and what's not sold. And there's lots of things such as old monitors that are broken that really have almost no value. Those kind of things, if the local people don't want them, we put them to the sale, then we can dispose of them. Sheila.
You just explained it, but that's basically it. I want to hold a public sale of all the stuff that we have in our Hahn building. That's from Moore's, computers, printers, desks, chairs. We'll set up a public sale that day and have vendors the public come in and purchase the items at a certain dollar amount. Some are in good condition, some may be in bad condition, but people may use them for strap. But also what we don't sell that day, I'm asking council to be able to destroy and dispose of that by placing in recycle bins. Just get rid of it. We want a clean house.
Any questions, comments on that? Mr. Robinson?
Mr. Chair, I'm in favor. I would just like to get a list of everything.
We're currently working on that. I'm just coordinate with our maintenance department, trying to organize everything. Want to clean up some stuff because we want to make it presentable for the sale that day. So we're working on it.
I would just like to say, I think it's a good idea, but I'd like to get more detail about it. As Mr. Robinson said, maybe a list of what's there, talk about the format a little bit, whether it would be, we'd put a price on it and sell it versus auction, that sort of thing.
I have all that ready for you.
Okay, well, that'd be good. If you could get that to us, I think we bring it back at another meeting and then vote on it once we have that information.
That's fine.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else, council members? Right, thank you again.
That's all I have,
All
Mr.
right.
Chair.
Mrs. Davis?
Mr. Chairman, council members, you have before you an updated calendar of meeting dates with the highlights to include. Next Monday, September 17, is the intergovernmental meeting hosted by the school board. This will begin at 6 p.m. at the Fairfield Career and Technology Center. Thursday, September 20, will be the Community Forum Council Work Session concerning the proposed admin building project. This will be held at Midlands Tech Fairfield campus from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesday through Thursday, October 24 through 25, the Institute of Government and County Council Coalition. This will be held at Embassy Suites in Columbia. You have in your packet tonight information concerning this, including the courses to be offered. Finally, to wrap up our intergovernmental meetings for the year, Town of Winsboro will be hosting on Wednesday, December 19. This will be held at the Winsboro Women's Club building, time to be announced.
Thank you, Mrs. Davis. We're now down to second public comment session.
We have 4 to speak. First, Ms. Jackie Workman, speaking on jobs.
Good evening. Oh, I just started, Chairman, and the clock started before I opened my mouth, so I don't like that. Oh, now, good evening, Chairman, and the rest of the council members. Last month, at the community meeting in Jenkinsville, we were informed that a new company was coming that would provide over 80 jobs. The question is, when will this take place? Where will it be located? How much is the wage per hour? Or will it be another anything is better than nothing attitude for the citizens of Fairfield County? We need jobs with a livable wage, such as $15 per hour, so we can have a quality of life, as so mentioned earlier. Second question, what is the procedure and timeline to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places? Who is involved in the negotiation of securing the historical site? And I'll also submit my questions, Chairman, by Friday. Lastly, I read in the paper that these people came up together, black and white. We all know each other. Martin Store was like Walmart for the western side. During this period, and I was a little girl, there were restaurants that didn't serve blacks. You had to go to the window or the back door. Doctor offices had signs up, color side, white side. Bus station, color side, white side. The schools was also segregated. Therefore, we did not come up equal. Martin Blue Moon was not a Walmart for integration. I hope the full council have a no vote on this issue. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Chris Griffith, speaking on future.
My name's Chris Griffith, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what district I live in, but I live off of Gum Springs Road, off of 321. Me and my wife built a house 2.5 years ago, and I just moved my business to the town of Winsboro about a couple months in March. I'm a proud citizen of Fairfield County. I appreciate your time and everyone's time. I would like to bring to attention that what I see in this county is a lot of potential. I see a lot of dwelling in the past, and I understand that, but we need to move forward. There's a lot of resources that's already in this county now that we're not using. And I'm going to talk about some privately owned businesses. Carolina Adventure World. That brings a lot of people to Fairfield County. Recreation. A lot of people ride their side-by-sides, their AT-wheelers there, come into the county. We have Lake Watery, Lake Monticello. That campground at Lake Watery is filled every weekend. We have a campground, and again, it's privately owned, over by BC Summer. That's probably sitting there hurting for business. How many of you are familiar with Ocean Lakes in Surfside Beach? Anybody? Me and my wife love going there with our camper, but you can't go there anymore. It's filled. And I'm not saying this is a county problem, it's a community problem. What do we do to make this county and town more recreation, bring families in on the weekend? And once we bring those families in on the weekend, they may want to move to Fairfield County. So how do you make a campground, refurbish it, put nice water parks in, walking trails, do something to bring people in? We are geographically located north of Columbia, south of Charlotte, Rock Hill. People are going to come. We're just not marketing, not making it happen. You can bring all the business you want here. I just moved my business here March. I cannot put 2 people in a truck with a driver's license. I can't even get anyone to apply for a job. The workforce is not here. And I'm ashamed to say that. I have to hire people mainly outside the county. You can bring any business in here, industrial business. It's not going to happen. The workforce is not here. My small heating and air conditioning business, I can't get one decent person to apply right now. So you can bring all the jobs you want in, it's not going to work. If we change our attitude and bring families in on the weekends to spend money in this county, that's the only resource that I see. And me not being from Fairfield County, I'm originally from Pennsylvania, I maybe see that potential being outside of the county. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Peggy Swearingen speaking on Not Smart.
Peggy Swearingen, District 3. As you may or may not know, I spoke last council meeting about the amount of money that was borrowed by your current District 3 representative and council that was seated on March of 2013. These 7 people created a nonprofit shell corporation for the purpose of issuing $24 million in bonds, which was then to be used for certain county renovations, recreational facilities, and other projects. This $24 million has turned into $43 million to be paid back by you and I, the taxpaying citizens of Fairfield County. Call it whatever you like, bad thinking, bad judgment, terrible atrocity. No words bad enough to describe the situation that these 7 people have put us, the taxpayers, in now and for the next 24 years. That would be not smart, number 1. So let's review the facts, okay? There was a list of accomplishments to be completed with this $24 million that was borrowed for Fairfield County. Oh yes, let me remind you once again that Fairfield County has to borrow money 2 times a year to pay on this $24 million. One time just to pay interest and one time to pay the interest and the principal. Borrowing money, more money to pay on money that's already borrowed. Okay, that would be not smart, number 2. Okay, back to this list of items that was the $24 million was to be used for. This list was, but was not limited to, number 1, repairing the courthouse, and number 2, repairing this administration building. Oh, in case you don't know this, I'll explain what all this means to you. Both of these buildings were used as collateral for this $24 million borrowed, so we're technically having to buy back these buildings. And hopefully, if we don't miss them, we'll own them again in 2042 because we don't own them now. That would be not smart, number 3. We, the taxpaying citizens of Fairfield County, want to know where the $24 million is, or was. No, in fact, we demand an explanation. We as Fairfield County citizens are owed this much since, as our council chairman so eloquently stated 2 times at last council, we are in a defunct state created by previous council. That would be smart number 4. So do please enlighten us, the taxpayers, as to what was done with the $24 million. Has there ever been an audit for this $24 million? Or how are expenditures approved for payments made from the $24 million? What's the recourse for using these funds that were not earmarked or what they were earmarked for and they were not used for those? Is this spending the money wrong, illegal? Who will be held responsible? Oh, and one more thought for y'all. The reason for no businesses might want to come to Fairfield County. Would you relocate your business if you were $43 million plus in the hole? Would you bring your family in here? That's the thought for y'all to think on tonight before you go to bed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Randy Bright, speaking on why not ask.
Randy Bright, District 1, Ridgeway. We've heard a lot tonight and other nights about our opportunities in Fairfield County, why people don't live here, and really some good suggestions and insights along the way. And certainly all suggestions and insights that seem reasonable should be looked into. But I have another suggestion I'd like to see for our economic development team. Before there's several implications that if we go ahead with the Mount Zion project at this point, it's kind of like diving headfirst into the shallow end because we don't really know how deep of opportunities we have with it. But as far as what we can do to get people to live here, we have an excellent resource for that. I live really close to the Blythewood line. And of course, the Blythewood Voice, just about every week, Blythewood is fighting off developers to come in there to build new residents. At the last few months, there's something like over 1,000 homes have been projected by developers to build within a very short time. My question would be to our development team, have we talked to the developers, the D.R. Hortons of the world and other residential developers that surround us that are begging to go into Blythewood, and yet Blythewood not wanting them? But why aren't they looking at Fairfield? Have we asked these developers, 5 miles difference, cheaper land, closer to Charlotte, why not Fairfield? Have we asked them that? If we truly want to know why we are not getting the growth that we deserve, let's ask the people that's their business, that they put their money, their heart, and their soul in this. They're going like crazy in Blythewood, and we all know that's right next door, right across the line. Why not Fairfield? Have we asked them why not Fairfield? Let's get the answers for them, and let's met out with all candor and honesty. Come back with, hey, this is what they said, is our roadblocks to growth. These guys are in that business, guys and ladies are in that business. They're investing tens of millions of dollars right across the county-city line from Ridgeway to Blythewood. So why not us? Please ask them. Let's get some real insight from the people that really know. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes segment 2.
Thank you. We're now down to council time. Do any council members have anything? Mr. Douglas.
I guess the trip 2 council members and others took to Washington was a big secret that other council members and taxpayers didn't need to know about. Hopefully they secured monetary support from the federal government. How much did this trip cost? I have been against council and administration going to Hilton Head for classes that are given at Embassy Suites in Columbia. Was this a Hilton Head trip to Washington? Number 2, Fairfield County can support and pay for the new office complex at Mount Zion if we can control the extra money the school system has been taken from the county funds. Since 2012, someone in the school system has secured $11,198,389.90 over the 9.9 school debt millage they should have received. Number 3, The only reason I would vote against the new administration officers would be if the cost is above the set amount we can pay. Number 4, who has the animal control ordinance? Why has it not made it to the council?
Thank you. I've got something to say just because some questions were asked directly that pertain to me about the Washington, D.C. trip, which I and Councilmember Robinson went on this past week, the end of the week. We'll just say that I hate if it hurt anybody's feelings, but that was by invite only. It was non-transferable. I don't know how they picked who was invited, but I got one, and I felt like if you get invited to the nation's capital, an opportunity to represent the place that you're from and that you work for, that you should do that, and so that's why I went. I'll say that the cost to the taxpayers for that, for my trip, I would imagine Councilmember Robinson's was the same, was around $1,000. I didn't go to the Hilton Head Conference this year. The reason I didn't go is because I'm not running for re-election. I didn't think it made sense to ask county citizens to pay for me to go somewhere if I wasn't going to be able to learn anything that was, I was going to be able to use to benefit the county. That said, I've gone the previous 3 years and learned quite a lot, and I would recommend if you haven't gone, if you don't support that, and if you make mistakes up here from time to time that seem to be mistakes that are amateurish, maybe you should go to them as well, learn a little bit, might help you. But I just want to say that those trips are very informative. You learn a lot. There's some questions asked here tonight in the council chambers about why not Fairfield. I've taken the opportunity when I've been on some of these trips and at places to speak to folks who were there. One of the biggest things about them is the networking opportunity, what you can learn from others. And I've taken that opportunity to talk to folks, people who represent large companies all over the world, finding places to locate. And why not Fairfield County? What they tell us is that we don't have the water and sewer capacity. We don't have the quality of life, and that we have too much blight in the area. That's the kind of things we learn. On the Economic Development Institute that I went to, we went to Lancaster as an example of the blight. Some of the zoning issues were referenced tonight. I think that's a good point. They gave us the tour that they typically give folks when they come in to see the area. And they showed us on the trip to where we went, they took us to an industrial site. The trip where we went was a beautiful area that we went through in the Lancaster area there, in Indian Land area. And then when we came back to where we were located at, they took us through a different area with a lot of blight that looked terrible. And they said, they brought that out and they said, you notice we took a nice route here and then on the way back we didn't. Those are the kind of things that you have to think about when you bring folks in. They said we would never take anybody on that route we brought back. We're just showing you these are the type things you have to do. And so that's some of the reason that you go to these type things, is to learn stuff like that. So I will absolutely defend that in every way that I can. Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
I'd like to say that it's not very so often the average Joe gets invited to the White House. So I took that as a humbling experience to be me being invited. And I definitely took advantage of it, and I enjoyed it. We networked a lot up there, and I would say that politics on this lower level is nothing compared to not even the staffers up there. You figure a 7:30 morning to 10:30 at night, and you're on call all night. So it's very humbling to witness it. Secondly, in reference to the classes we take, sitting out there in those seats, you're not privy to some of the information we receive. So if you don't educate yourself, even sitting back here and not educating yourself, you're still sitting out there. So you have to educate yourself as far as economic development. So that's why those classes are taken, and I've learned so much in those classes as far as economic development, starting downtown. It's a million things that I'm still learning, and continued education is the key. Not just spending the taxpayers' money, it's continuing education. And if knowledge is power, I want to be powerful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Roof.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on, the reason for abstaining. On on the new administration building the last couple of times. I think someone mentioned that, you know, you're riding the fence and it's about politics, and that's not true. It's about trying to make the best decision you can make. And I would have done this if it had been next year or 2 years prior. If you don't know and you're not sure, I can't vote either way. And there are other people out there that I know that feel they don't have enough information. I don't either. And so they don't know. But then there's people that are sure on one side or the other, and I understand that from both sides of this thing. But until I know and have enough, and we're getting more information. This forum is going to be helpful. We're going to get these questions and answers, and so that's where I stand on that. And the other thing I asked at the last meeting about written estimates. Do we have any on the repair in this building? The necessary repairs for this building?
We do, and we will provide that to all council members. It was bid out, the entire process they went through with this building and temporary space while this building was being renovated. We would have to move everybody out, I think, for 18 months. There's a relatively hefty price tag with that also, but we do have that full bid package, and I'll get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Mrs. Goins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Would like to say in reference to the comment was made about District 4 and situations that happened in past that still happen now. And when I look at the culture in District 4, it was always multicultural. But history is not one-sided. Just like some did things to people, others did things to people. And there's a word that says, but we've all fallen short. And we're all guilty of some things. So when we start pointing fingers, I said to someone after the meeting the other night, I said, the word says, first remove the beam out of your own eye. Then you can see clearly how to remove the speck out of your brother's eye. And when we get to that point, we can do better in that problem that we have. Second, the administrative building. As I think of life's journey and what's going on now, all the wonderful things that are going on now in Blythewood, other areas, I came through North Main Street in Columbia, and they are just redoing and revitalizing. And I thought, I said it didn't happen just by happenstance. It happened by people investing, people putting tax monies in, people sacrificing, people doing the same thing that First Main LLC is doing. They get other people to put in together to bring a project that this county, we'll just go back home, we cannot afford to do. So they invest in us. In turn, if we are going to grow, we're going to have to invest in ourselves. It's done with banks. It's done with medical buildings. It's done with all the other places where we go, hotels that we don't even think about. We go and we pour thousands of dollars into other counties and other states and other places, and we enjoy. But when we come back home, we want to be tight and stingy, and we think about all the grants that we get and everything. Those are other people's money that they put in, their sacrifice. They're other people's tax monies that they put into different organizations to help one another. And that's what we're supposed to do. It's not we are supposed to be funnels. We're not supposed to just get and hold. In order for everybody to prosper, there's more than enough for everybody. It was already set like that from the beginning. But when we block the blessing, then those that could prosper and do better, they don't. So we have to sacrifice, we have to give. Where the administrative building now is being proposed, before that school was there, there was something else there. Before those homes were there, there was something else there. Before places in Western Fairfield, Fairfield County, there was something else there. And in the future, all of that will be irrelevant to another generation, and they'll come along and they'll bulldoze down and they'll build up and they'll change. But we can work together for the good of everybody. No, everybody's not going to get everything they want all the time. We've never promised that. But we can do better. We want people to come in, and most of us, when we want company to come in, we do a little sprucing up, we do a little fixing up, we do a little painting, because we want them to enjoy our home. We want them to feel welcome. So the same thing we're doing here, Mr. Robinson, the walkable Winsboro, it's an awesome thing. If we just look past the past, look a little bit past where we are now, invest in ourselves. We have people reaching from all over. The meeting that Mr. Robinson had, Mr. Davenport, economic development, he talked about the jobs and all the things. People are reaching out to us. And the gentleman said it quite right. We can bring all the jobs in we want to, but you can't make people go to work and make them want to work. And we can say that all we want to, and it sounds good, but there are other people that will. And sometimes when we do better, we fix up things, the people that haven't been doing and maybe didn't care will look and say, well, okay, now I got something to be proud of. I have something that I can work toward. Maybe it can lift them up a little bit and make them want to go to work, make them want to invest. But the only way we are going to make it is that all of us are going to have to do our part, and we all have a part to play in this. Sometimes we don't like the part that we have to play. Sometimes it's hard and it's difficult, but the end result can be good. Give it a chance. Nobody knows what the end is going to hold. We're all either walking by chance, by hope, or by faith. But nobody knows the end result until we get there. Yes, on the administrative building, as it was said, I will not cast a final vote until I have the final numbers and we know that we're in position to be able to afford it. I am trusting First Main to a degree because they're investing in it too, that they're feeling the same way. They're not sure, but they're trying. And together, if we can come to an even street to make this work, to help us and bring that together, bring other projects, the park together, bring the walkable Winsboro. You can't even imagine what this county can look like in 5 or 10 years. But we've got to try to give it a chance. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Trapp.
I would like to address the comments made by the District 3 constituent, the not smarts 1 through 4. I'm exactly like the constituent. I want to know where all the money went to, because when I got off of council in March 2015, I think the previous council had only spent $1.1 million of the bond money. So if all the money is gone, where is it going? Because we didn't vote on anything. Could we get a detailed account balance on the bond money, where it's been spent, a copy of the invoices where it's been spent, what was voted on from council, so we'll know exactly from penny to penny where all the money is.
Certainly, we'd be glad to do that.
Because we didn't spend any money when I was up here. We voted to take out the $24 million loan on the advice of our attorneys, and that was to secure the money for Fairfield County because it was laws being threatened to be passed in the State House. So when VC Summer come online, that the money would be shared throughout South Carolina. And on the advice of our attorneys, the way to secure that money, to keep it from being spread out throughout the state, to take out the loan, the $24 million. Yes, I voted for it. If it had came back up again with the same recommendation from the attorney, I would vote again. But when I left from on here, was $22.4 million still left in the bank. Where it went after that, I don't know. But I didn't vote for it. And, well, it was 1 through 4 not smarts, but I think the constituent, I think she might have left out one. And I'll let her figure out which one that is. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Trapp. Anyone else? All right, I'd just like to throw a couple things in here just on the, and the only reason I have this is because I specifically requested it in writing. That's why I got it. This building was looked at in 2015, was quoted at $3.1 million at that time to do rewiring, HVAC, and roof. I would imagine if that was 2015, the number would be a little bit higher today. The Hahn building or somewhere else would have to be renovated to move folks because they can't work in here if there's no roof on the building. They can't work if the HVAC and the wiring's been taken out. That was quoted at 3.6. So we're already up over 6.7 million just to fix this building. So just wanted to address that and make sure everybody's aware of it. And if those can be publicly released, I think we need to go ahead and do that as well, just to make sure. But just wanted to make sure that was thrown out there. Also to say that I believe the money left in the bond now, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate, is around $5.4 million, and I believe it is tied to the courthouse and administration projects, because that's the only thing I believe that wasn't spent. Everything else, I can't tell you exactly what it was spent on, because really a lot of that stuff wasn't voted on because it was designed that way in the bond. It was designed so that it had to be spent on what it was listed for. And very difficult to do anything to change it. But most of it, I know, went to the Commerce Park on Peach and Cook Road, and then some of the regional sites, the one in District 4, the recreation site there, the one in District, I think it's actually located in District 3, District 2 and 3 combined, to do the funding for that recreation site. A little bit was spent in District 6 around Drawley Park. I'm trying to remember the fire stations. The one in Ridgeway and the one in Jenkinsville both were paid for using the bond monies. I believe that's probably the most of it. Mr. Taylor, can you remember anything
That
else?
was the bulk of it, with the Commerce Center being the largest part. There was also some used on interoperability, the new radio systems.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, the new radio system.
Question, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. So all this you just mentioned has been done since March of 2015.
Most of it probably so.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, but
My point to that was, the money could have been turned back in. It could have been, yes, it could. As long as you could have turned the whole entire amount back in, our attorneys told us we could have refunded the money. But the reason we didn't, because some had already been spent, and all we had to do is get a little bit out of the fund balance. We could have sent the money back. So don't say I spent or voted on anything, because the only thing I voted for, I'll tell you today, I voted on the advice of our council to secure a $24 million loan to keep the state from getting the money if VC Summer was to come online. But other than that, my hands are clean.
I tell you what, I'd like to put this on the next agenda for discussion in executive session, because, Mr. Trapp, I'd like to see some of what you remember. As you know, none of us were involved in that, so if that were on the advice of attorneys, I'd like to learn a little bit more from you to see if maybe there might be some shared liability there, because I don't buy the argument that
You don't buy the argument that we could have turned the money back in?
No, I don't know about that. What I was told is that we couldn't, but what I don't buy is the argument that by doing that bond, that was going to secure that money and it could never be touched by anywhere else in the state. And the reason I don't buy that argument is because there's a constitutional provision, state constitution of South Carolina, that says essentially, and Mr. Morgan knows it in better detail than this, but basically that General Assembly can't pass any laws that would nullify any contracts, that would do anything to negatively affect any contracts within the state. So the idea was, if we contract for this money, they won't be able to do anything because the constitutional provision prevents it. But if that's the case, the fee in lieu of agreement was a contract to begin with.
But would you mind inviting Representative Douglas and former Senator Ms. Coleman?
Certainly.
Yeah,
Certainly.
invite them also.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's all I had on the bond monies that had been spent. That's all that I could recall and have any record of right on hand. Beyond that, I would just like to say that I appreciate the folks who've come in and asked questions about the new administration building project. Appreciate that you did the same thing when the school board borrowed $2 million here just recently, and when we spent the 1.6 for the hospital property. Appreciate the shared interest there. Maybe that goes a little bit to motivation, but do appreciate that. Going further, I'd just like to say that we do have a form. We're accepting questions in written form ahead of that meeting. That is going to be the 20th, I believe it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody on council? 20th from 5 to 8. 5 o'clock will be kind of a reception and time to talk with everybody openly for an hour and talk with the developers there openly. And then from 6 to 8, we will discuss. We can't respond to questions. The reason we can't is because we do not, until we vote on something, we don't act as a body. My thoughts on something, I can almost bet you, are going to be different from every other council member up here's thoughts on it. So that's why we can't answer it. We have to discuss it because it's not an official action. We can't do that until we vote on something. But we will discuss those and hopefully get an answer for you as best we can. But again, that will be on the 20th from 5 to 8 p.m. We've got some information on that if you'd like more. I think there's some sheets over here, and then it's been on the Facebook page. Would also like to say that Sheriff and I spoke earlier today about the Hurricane Florence situation. Everybody just be careful and make sure you pay attention to the news and everything that's going on. I believe the emergency management team, the sheriff, are having a meeting in the morning and are planning to post any updates to Facebook pages and things of that nature. So if you just look there for any updates, I think that would be beneficial. Anybody else? Yes, Ms. Goins.
And I did forget to say, I commend you, Councilman Robinson, and our sheriff for going to Washington to represent us. That kind of action and leadership is so important. Everybody can't go to everything. So when 2 or 3 are invited to something as important as that, and the situation that we're in now, I commend you highly for representing us. Thank you so much. And yes, it does cost, and it goes back to making sacrifices. So whatever little bit of taxes I pay, if that helped you along the way, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goins. Anyone else? At this time, we'll take a motion to go into executive session. We've got 2 items for tonight. Item A is legal matter update on litigation against SCANA, SCE&G in reference to the abandoned VC Summer New nuclear project. Item B is a proposed contractual matter discussion regarding the development of a new county administration building to better serve the citizens of Fairfield County. Do we have a motion? It's been moved and properly seconded that council go into executive session for purposes as stated. Those in favor? Those opposed? Council is now in executive session. Thank you.